So we can see I got this cut out, and all those wavy lines I wasn't sure of. I just went ahead and cleaned them off with my scissor, and so the lines get a little confusing when you look at it, but basically this is going to be the pattern for your head and body. The next thing we're going to do is a pattern for the arms and the legs, and I'm not too exact on proportion, but I do look at things that I want to, the length I want to do. So the arm is going to start here, and when we put our arms down by our sides, it goes anywhere from our hip to our knee. So I'm going to imagine a place where the arm starts. This would be the hip. I want to do the arm a little bit longer. So there's a way you can do an arm if you want to stick with ovals, you can go ahead and do this little crescent shape. That arm is fine. If you kind of like straighter lines, you can do a straight arm. If you want to put a little detail in it, you can do a little bump like a mitten. So there's different ways you can do an arm, and right at this point we're just doing it really simple. If you're doing a thumb, make sure your thumb is just kind of a bump, because when we're sewing it we might run into a problem if your thumb is really defined, especially I'm not that precise with my sewing machine, so I would never be able to make this type of curvy line. I always just prefer the rounded line. And again, if you just wanted to do this for an arm, you can do that. Going into the legs. Legs are a little bit longer than arms, so I just kind of gauge if this is the hip. I'm going to need a lot of space for the leg, so for those of you who like ovals, you can do a long oval shape for the leg. I would just stick with the round shapes. This leg has a little bit of a foot. If you want a really defined foot, you can go ahead and do that. And it's still a pretty safe bet when you're sewing, because with the sewing machine, this curve isn't as scary as this curve would be. So I would just keep it very simple. So here I have I just went with the crescent arm and the rounded shape for the leg. So when we put a person together, we had the profile for our doll. And then again, when I show you how to sew it, we'll have buttons holding these in place, so it'll be jointed. So for now, I want this to be the only thing you do. I want you to cut out head and body, decide what type of arms and legs you want, and then be at peace for it for the night, because the next step with marking it and sewing it, I have a trick for you that is going to save so much time, because I hate cutting out patterns. So I'm going to show you how to sew it first and then cut it. So once you get these pieces together, I want you to find a cereal box. This is a favorite in our home. And I want you to fit it onto the cereal box, trace it, and cut it out, because that will be your permanent pattern. And this is a lot more stable than a piece of paper, and then you can just trash the paper. But that's all I have for now. And once again, I don't want you to cut it out on fabric or put anything on fabric yet. We'll talk about that in the next video.